Daytime sword fishing. It's been the hottest craze in South Florida going on several years now, and for very good reason. You're going out in the daytime to depths that range anywhere from 1,500 feet to 1,900 feet. You're dropping down a bait to the bottom with stand-up tackle, and you're hooking and fighting swordfish that sometimes could approach 3, 4, sometimes 500 pounds. It's an unbelievable fishery that if you got on the right numbers and you had the right tactics, when the bite's on, you could get 3 or 4 bites in one day. That's how good it is. Now, we're not talking about going out and using electric reels to bring that bait up. We're talking big game sport fishing, 80-pound class stand-up tackle and a harness and hand cranking these fish to the surface. And that's what brought me and the Mark VI down to Islamorada in the Florida Keys to pair up with Captain Nick Stanczyk to go off of Islamorada and target daytime swordfish.
Poveromo's world of saltwater fishing, big fish don't stand a chance.
Islamorada in the Florida Keys really holds a special place for those who daytime swordfish. That's because Nick Stanczyk's father, Richard Stanczyk, and Vic Gaspini pioneered daytime swordfishing here in the Florida Keys. They had gone out over the years, kept it under wraps to certain depth zones, dropped down, and actually pioneered how to catch swordfish during the daytime.
My dad got very lucky. The first trip they ever went out on in January in 2003. Scott was running the boat, who's my uncle, and Richard's my dad. And his friend Vic were all there with the maiden. On the very first drop, they caught about a 60-pound swordfish in 1,800 feet of water.
Nick Stanczyk is one of the new generation guides. He is totally outstanding, even though he does it all, everything from tarpon to reef fishing for grouper and snapper, to live bait sail fishing, to the offshore humps and trolling for dolphin. But his big specialty, following on the footsteps of his father, is daytime sword fishing. He knows where to go, he knows the tactics, and you're in a place called Islamorada where it really all was pioneered, at least off the Florida coast. We left Bud and Mary's absolutely gorgeous Florida Keys day.
I have a lot of spots out here. Sometimes it's tough to decide where you go. But the area we went that day, I hadn't been there in a few weeks, so I had a feeling there might be some fish there.
Once we got at the spot, Nick said, okay, time to let the baits out. And how we did this is we would put the boat with the current. We'd set the bait out as we were trolling. Once the bait had gone out, 100, 150 feet or so, we attached the 10-pound lead weight, dropped that in the water, and continued going with the current for around 300 feet. Once we hit the 300-foot mark, Nick said to turn the boat right around and start following that line back up as we were free spooling. So we laid out the line perfectly so the sinker would take the bait and leader down in such a way that it wouldn't get tangled up. We backtracked on the line, continued the free spool, and we sort of motored into the current until we were directly on top of the line. It was straight up and down. At that stage, we continued the free spool until the bait hit bottom. As soon as that bait hit bottom, I cranked it off the bottom. I sat down to watch, thinking it's going to take a while.
As soon as it hit bottom there, we're talking on the bottom maybe,
he's there,
maybe 10 seconds.
And it did not. There was a tap, tap, tap. Nick said, go ahead and crank it up a little bit, tease the fish. I reeled the bait up probably about 5 or 6 turns, stopped, started hitting some more aggressively, fish on.
That's as quick as a bite as you could ask for.
George Poveromo's world of saltwater fishing, proudly brought to you by Mako. You'll find them where the fish are. Mercury Marine, proud sponsor of George Poveromo's world of saltwater fishing. Penn, let the battle begin. Suffix, the world's most hardcore fishing line. LOWRANCE, find, navigate, dominate with the new HDS Gen2 Touch by LOWRANCE.
Talk about a quick bite. A big swordfish ate the bait the moment it reached the bottom, some 1,500 feet below. I'm with Nick Stanczyk off Islamorada in the Florida Keys.
And it's tough to tell how big the fish is when you hook them, but he was swimming that lead up really fast, so I know we had a good idea. It was a nice size fish. And
It slammed as soon as the thing, I don't think it was down there more than what?
20 seconds?
If.
Maybe 10 seconds?
And I just saw the rod just totally slack.
Yep, he was coming up with it before we even noticed it. Wouldn't surprise me though if this is a nice fish. He's really got a nice angle in that line, racing up.
I'm on a fish now that is really working me over. You could feel the weight of the fish. Once you got tight to it and you started bringing it up through the water column and the fish realized what was going on and started to make the runs, you felt sheer power.
Whoa, running, man. He's got power.
This is a big fish. I think I'm gonna stick the flyer together just in case.
Go ahead.
Now remember, 80-pound class tackle and this swordfish, just pure strength and power.
He's shaking away down here.
Yep.
Intense battle. And I worked at this fish, fought him. We're coming on the 1 hour mark.
You ain't too happy now.
No, he's shaking away though.
Yep.
It's a great mental advantage when that wind-on gets on here, you know?
Oh yeah.
Doing all right for you, bud?
Yep.
You need me to move, or you let
Just
me know
swing
when
your tip over here when that lead comes up. We got that lead off and we could see the fish maybe about 70 or 80 feet away. And I knew it was big, approaching 300 pounds, maybe bigger.
Oh, that's a violent head shake there.
Just let him go, George.
There he goes again.
Yep, just let him go. It's okay, we got the weight off, which is great. This fish is big. He's well over 2, he could be 3.
And you can imagine stand-up, 80-pound class, and just feeling that this was a very, very big fish. We got the fish probably 50 or 60 feet from the boat, and Nick and I looked down there, and we saw a big swordfish. Nick called that one, 280, maybe 300 pounds. You could just see it there.
He's black back, blue side, silver. He's beautiful. He knew he was every bit at 300. Just went to make another run, and
boom, the hook pulls out. No!
That was it. Heartbreak City.
After 1 hour of an exhausting fight with a fish, 50, 60 feet from the boat, we pulled the hook, and that was the fish on her first drop. I was just so dejected and bummed out. I mean, we're shooting the show, and I'm looking at this fish as our big trophy fish. What a way to kick off the show, and so close, but yet so far. So I was not in a happy mood at that point.
leader smoked up 6 feet up there. That's a big one.
Can't believe it. You pull a lot of hooks in these fishery. You have swordfish, relatively soft mouths, so you're pulling fish up, 1,500 feet of water. A lot of things can go wrong and you pull a lot of hooks.
Well, if it wasn't bad enough losing that first big fish, the second drop, we dropped down and that bite came instantly. It must have came within 5-10 seconds. I looked over and he was already coming up with the lead.
Back at an 80-pound class stand-up gear, after spending 1 hour, about 15 minutes prior, fighting a big one and losing them.
Within an hour, you had him on the wind on. We had the weight off and up he was coming nice and steady. And
what happens? The most sickening feeling in all of big game fishing, the line goes limp, the hook comes out of the fish's mouth. No.
Ah, holy moly.
Here you go.
No break, no love at all. 2 really sharp hooks.
I don't even know what to say.
I know, fight him that long, get him on the leader. That's terrible.
I fought 2 big swordfish, each for over an hour long, and pulled the hooks. I'm dejected, but my luck is about to change in a huge way. We'll bring you right back to Islamorada in the Florida Keys in just a few minutes. I'm with Nick Stanzik, and we're fishing for swordfish during the day off Islamorada in the Florida Keys.
Basically 2 hours in fighting fish, big swordfish.
We had started the day off. George had fought 2 fish, 2.5 hours combined. Unfortunately, we had no fish to show for it.
You were pretty exhausted, pretty depressed, and I'm thinking this whole TV shoot is slipping away. How many opportunities are you going to get with big fish? Nick said, let's go back to the numbers again.
But sure enough, we kept at it. We sent down that fresh bait, and again, within a few minutes, we were hooked up.
In less than a minute this time, that bait no sooner hit the bottom, and I took the cranks, tap, 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 bends over, on again.
You can hear me. That thing's gonna come up out here. He's angled way up.
wind-on's right here.
Sure enough, I'm onto another big fish. This thing, we had the wind on actually on the reel at a few points throughout that fight, and like nothing, the fish would run it back off and take 100 yards of line off.
It was a 2.5-hour fight up and down. These fish they're unlike any other animal out there. They're mean and they fight like a cross between a tuna and a big marlin, except a swordfish would pull a big marlin backwards.
Just one tough fish, big.
Yeah, big mean one, that's for sure. Hopefully we got dinner on the boat, because it's gonna be a sunset ride home, maybe dark.
That's fine, plenty of potato chips.
Now we're past the 2-hour mark. I had a fight with the first fish for an hour, went back on the numbers, hook up with a second fish that we lost for an hour. I'm on this one now for 2 hours. That's 4 hours basically of almost back-to-back fighting time. How do you think I was feeling?
See him?
I knew we had the fish about 50 feet away, and we were getting ready to take him. I could tell he was tiring out, and then
The unthinkable happened.
George fell in. You know, just in the blink of an eye, it was 1 second.
Next thing I know, I get pulled overboard.
And I looked over, and George was in the water.
I don't know whether it was the weight from the camera boat that had caught the side of my boat and I wasn't prepared for it. I got a slight bump, I lost footage, I slid, I'm overboard. I'm in the water, hooked up to a big swordfish. This is how I'm gonna die. Then I realize it's a bad way to die, and there's no way in the world this is gonna happen to me.
Let me hang on to you, buddy.
Hang on, I almost got it.
In my mind, I've always gone through the procedures. If you get pulled over, whether you're a stand-up tackle or you're in a chair, I backed off on the drag, the fish is going, I relieved the pressure. I'm on the side of the boat now, Nick Stanzik has got to be freaking out. The weight of the outfit now had me sinking down to near my chin.
Hang on, I almost got it. I grabbed George, and luckily the cameraman jumped off the other boat and swam over and gave us a hand. And help me get him out. I'll go under the cliffs.
Next thing, I hear a splash. Here comes Kevin Tierney, longtime friend and show producer over there. And he's trying to go ahead and get that rod turned around to unclip me and get me out of that. He finally got the clips undone. He passed the rod back up to Nick. So far, I'm out of it. I swim to the back of the Mako and trying to get up into the transom area to get back in the boat. My fighting belt wedges. I think Kevin or somebody had either moved or unstrapped my belt to where I could get in that transom area. Was it graceful? No. Was I in there? Yes. Was I glad I was in there? Hell yes.
And within a couple minutes later, George was back in the harness, and
I'm fighting the fish after being pulled overboard. And I have to say this.
keep winding on him, George.
Because I was 100% guilty in that I didn't put the restraints on the reel that would go to the boat and also to the back side of the harness that would clip onto the boat in case something exactly like that happened where Nick or whoever's on board could grab the outfit and pull you back into the boat. In addition, this is why you should always have some kind of cutting instrument secured to the fighting harness, that if you go overboard, you could also just cut the line. It was just stupidity on my part because honestly, I always thought, because of my experience out here doing this, that accidents always happen to the other person. And today, I was the other person.
When did you get an inch? Get an inch. I guess within 8 or 10 minutes, we sank the gaffs into the fish and struggled to pull a 256-pounder over the side of the boat. Keep pulling on him. No, keep pulling on him.
When Nick stuck the fish and said he had him, the relief that had gone through my body, I can't explain it. Finally, we have ourselves a swordfish. It had been one incredible, action-packed, fatigued day.
We got him, you guys. It was a hell of a fight.
Beautiful, huh?
Over 200 pounds, really fat. Some of them just have soul and a spirit. You gotta break it. What are we at? 2 hours and 30 minutes on him.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a good one. He's well over 2, really fat.
The only problem, when we tried to lift the fish over the gunnel, I was shot.
George was exhausted. I can't blame him, but I didn't have quite the strength myself to pull him over the side, so
I tried to help Nick the best I could get this fish up there, but I had nothing there for him.
After trying a few times, we decided to pull him through the door.
And then somehow, with Nick and me, for what I was worth, pulling on this fish, got this swordfish in the cockpit of the Mark VI.
Nice job, George.
We have to run through the darkness to get back to Bud and Mary's. We had a long run ahead of us. Turned all the lights on the boat, took that drive in, relaxed, recharged my batteries. It was almost like a surreal feeling to me when we backed into Bud and Mary's. In the darkness, Nick and I grabbed this swordfish. People were snapping pictures.
And you catch a 200+ pound broadbill. That's what I consider big down here. The fish weighed in at 256.
One heck of a swordfish. And that's going to be a night that I'll remember for a long, long, long time. Bring that fish, put it on the scales, and it was just an incredible way to cap a rather bizarre day.
You didn't think we were done catching swordfish just yet. Nick Stanczyk and I will be dropping down for another Islamorada, Florida Keys swordfish right after the break.
George Poveromo's World of Saltwater Fishing is brought to you by Brite, professional grade boat care products. Bass Pro Shops, your adventure starts here. Rapala, your best shot at a world record. The Florida Keys and Key West, come as you are. And by King Sailfish, world-class quality for that once-in-a-lifetime catch.
That's all you need. You don't need to go to the gym.
Just sign up for some daytime sword fishing, standing up like you're doing, you're gonna get a full body workout.
Nick Stanczyk and I are fishing for swordfish during the day off Islamorada in the Florida Keys, and another swordfish has just eaten our bait some 1,500 feet below.
The next day, Nick Stanczyk and I meet back at the Mark VI. We run off again.
This day, things went a lot better. Within 2 minutes, we were hooked up.
Get that reel going.
This one was hooked perfect in the corner of the mouth, and after about 45 minutes, we had a 175-pound broadbill next to the boat.
Beautiful swordfish, just, the power and strength. We get the hook out of the fish, turn it free, we're victorious again. What a show this is turning out to be. A big 256, a 175, and we decided let's go ahead and take the rest of the afternoon off.
Well, things on the second day had gone much smoother on our way home, and back at Bud and Mary's there by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so it was a nice, easy day for us.
There's a reason that we're in Islamorada, and there's a reason Islamorada is called the sport fishing capital of the world. There's so many opportunities here. But Islamorada is also a great city in that there's a ton of things to do on land. The restaurants here are varied, from a simple burger joint all the way up to the most fanciest restaurant to be found in the Florida Keys. When we're in town, we always make it a point to go by the Bass Pro Shops, and just to walk around and relax once you have your boat launched and tied up is a neat thing to do. We always make it a point to dine at the Islamorada Fish Company, which is the restaurant next door to Bass Pro Shops. You get there, have a good dinner, and you can also watch the fish feeding that goes on sometimes around sunset in the afternoon. You see all these sharks and tarpon being fed. When we really want to step it up, there is the world famous Ziggy's and Mad Dogs, the most incredible seafood that you're going to find, I would say, virtually anywhere. And again, our crew decided to have another dinner at Ziggy and Mad Dogs to celebrate. It's just really one incredible restaurant. As far as on-land things to do, Theater of the Sea, it's a must-do when you're in Islamorada. An incredible facility. I've been here numerous times. The shows that they put on with the porpoise, with the sea lions, are really incredible and highly entertaining. On top of that, you have the Dive Museum. If you're into diving, this is a historical place, and you look at some of these exhibits in there and you even wonder how people go down in the water wearing things like this. And one of our favorite places to stay in Islamorada is Pines and Palms. I like the facility. It reminds me of the way the Florida Keys used to be when my father used to take us down here fishing. It's an old-style Florida facility, ultra clean, ultra comfortable, very convenient and easy to get to, and it's the Pines and Palms, and again, it's one of our favorite places to stay in Islamorada. What more could you say about Bud and Mary's Marina? This is probably the heart of the sport fishing here in the Mecca called Islamorada.
And what makes Bud and Mary so special is the caliber of captains there, the fishermen that fish both offshore and in the backcountry. There's a really good group of guys there, a very strong bunch of fishermen. Anything that swims from shallow water to deep water, the group of guys there can catch it.
So when you consider what we had done, the sword fishing here is off the charts, at least it was during our trip. There's just so many options to do here. It's just an incredible place to be. But the story doesn't end yet. The production team goes home that night. The next day I take my good friend Carl Grassi out for a day of fun fishing. Carl, what do you want to go for? He goes, I want to catch a swordfish. We run out to the swordfish grounds, get on the numbers, we drop down. Sure enough, Carl hooks up at 10:30 in the morning. To say this was a monster fish would be an understatement. This fish fought Carl for 7 hours before we finally boated it. How Carl and I got that fish into the cockpit of the Mark VI was something else. We raced back to Bud and Mary's. We'd have a forklift take the fish out of the Mark VI and put it on the scale. It weighed 380 pounds and measured 15 feet in length. But what an ending to this story here. It was an epic trip that I'm going to remember for a long, long, long time. And again, it just bodes well for all the fantastic fishing opportunities that can be found here in Islamorada in the fabulous Florida Keys.
Would you like to see another death-defying incident from the show? Go to facebook.com/George.Poveromo and watch a swordfish attack our underwater cameraman.